Vibrations community, you're with Simon today, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the full moon in Aries and just sharing a little bit about what I have picked up on and giving some sense of direction based on exactly how I feel and how I see these current energy patterns at the moment. Now, before I go ahead and actually do that, I'd just like to let everybody know that in the description below will be a link to the article itself, and I highly suggest reading that because part of this video in itself captures more of an auditory experience, whereas the article itself gives you a lot more depth and you can come back to it consistently all the time when you're reading. I just think that for other people out there that are wanting to learn about this, the video is good, and so is the article. Okay, so that's in the description below. So we're looking at the full moon that happened in Aries on the 15th of October. So today's the 16th. And what I noticed that was really significant about this full moon, not only is it halfway through the cycle of the Libra new moon experience, but that we have the moon conjunct Aquarius, all right, or Uranus. And we have the symbol of Mars in Pluto, so in Capricorn, and it's conjunct Pluto, okay? And the ruler of the moon and Uranus is Mars, which is in Capricorn, right? And that's conjunct Pluto. And then that ruler, so the ruler of Mars and Pluto that is in Capricorn is Saturn, and Saturn is where? Sagittarius. So what we're doing here with this kind of little game is we're looking at what type of symbols are reflecting supporting themes or reflecting ongoing evolutionary cycles within ongoing evolutionary cycles within ongoing evolutionary cycles. And if we even go further than that and we take Saturn is in Sag, that's ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter, of course, is in Libra. And so we have this interesting thing where we've got Mercury conjunct Jupiter, that's in Libra, and the asteroid Lucifer is there as well. And then we also have the ruler of all of those being Venus, which is in Scorpio. And what's interesting about that is that Venus is in the last degrees of Scorpio, and the ruler of Venus is Pluto, and we come back to Pluto, and there's this consistent kind of ping pong game that's going on. So watch this video introduction again to follow it. And for those of you that have followed at this point in time, the point of doing that again is to understand what type of energy, where's the chi flowing in the chart, okay? And that's how we can get really, really good at understanding the dynamics here. So what is the dynamics that are taking place? Well, firstly, I feel that the moon conjunct Uranus transit is bringing to the surface a lot of energy patterns and frequencies that still exist within your field that are not serving you and your spiritual awakening experience, okay? So any dense form of energy that's with you, that's keeping you from not consistently integrating yourself into the moment, that would be what that Uranus moon connection is like. Now, the nature of the Uranus moon connection is very, very faint. So it's not going to be something that's going to be incredibly like loud, and paradoxically it is, because as the moon transits over Uranus, it will create that shocking event that will then fracture any pre-existing patterns that are part of your psyche that are preventing you from accessing more free space, more horizon, like more energy that is moving across the space of the spectrum, okay? So energy in itself, when it's moving across the space of the spectrum like that, that is awareness, right? And anything that is preventing you from expanding that process will naturally come up as like you bumping into something, basically, whether it be an argument with somebody, whether it be triggered by something, whatever that might be, okay? And all you have to really do is just become conscious of that patterning and then begin to use certain techniques and methods to ground or remove or release or process through any of those frequencies that are present with you, whatever that might be, okay? So that's a good way to honor that connection. And of course, being the full moon, it's essential because it's correlating to the awareness that is vibrating in Libra. Okay, why Libra? Because we did the trick of going around the whole zodiac and we landed Jupiter in Libra. So Jupiter not only being in Libra, but it was also conjunct the sun when the new moon took place. So it's part of that cycle. Okay, so that's there. And it's also making a square to Mars and Pluto. Now, both Mars and Pluto in Capricorn are, firstly, Mars is in a balsamic phase to Pluto, implying that Mars is in a completion cycle. So many of us will have the energy of being lethargic, energy of wanting to experience doing things, and yet at the same time, needing to be very subjective in your awareness, to be very passive in response, and yet simultaneously, what it's really promoting is the whole entire evolutionary cycle that took place within the last 2 years of Mars and Pluto. So we're coming to an ending cycle of Mars and Pluto's, cyclical evolutionary experience, and what it's doing and how it's manifesting in our world right now on a political stage is the completion of governmental structures that have been with us for an incredibly long period of time, right? That patterning is now beginning to be very present with us on the planet right now, okay? For those of you that are living in the States and obviously watching the elections with a sense of caution, because it is pretty interesting to see the polarities that are existing. And it's also fascinating as well that when you understand Libra as an archetype, the energy is very much rooted in polarization and polarity. And Jupiter being in Libra, the Sun being in Libra, Mercury being in Libra, Lucifer being in Libra, opposing this moon in Aries. And of course, the squares that are taking place to Pluto, in other words, Pluto in Capricorn, Jupiter, Sun, Mercury, all of them have had squares to Pluto. You can see that there is this interesting polarity between wanting to break free and having a sense of newness be present with us, and yet still simultaneously dealing with the repercussions of our past actions and them being simultaneously in the moment. And that brings me to the Saturn squares, okay? Now, when Saturn is in your astrology chart, you've got to follow it with a sense of understanding that it correlates to emotional awareness, okay? More along the lines of integrated emotional awareness. So the developmental phase of us as human beings is associated with time. Time is a measurement that we then use to allow ourselves to understand how it's like a benchmark, right, of our growth. Now, when we measure emotions through time, we use things like he is 6 years old, he is 12 years old, he is 18 years old. The paradox of it is that when you actually measure that and you put people in similar categories, you notice that there's different developmental stages. And the reason why this is the case is because we are so intrinsically individuated and so unique in our own expression that if we had to kind of develop these emotional developmental stages where everybody was the same, we would just be consistently homogenized. And that's what's unfortunately happened for us. And a lot of emotional trauma has occurred because the way that we naturally grow has been in some way, shape, or form affected by our ability to not know our individuality. Okay, and that's okay, because I mean we haven't actually explored this yet. This is what the kind of new direction for us is going to be. So the Saturn squaring the nodes at this point in time is creating the seesaw effect. And the seesaw effect is developing this kind of nausea, where on one hand, there's filled sense of freedom and hope and moving forward. And yet at the same time, there's this backdrop of this is complete insane. The human race should be wiped out, that type of insanity. Or should I say, emotional entropy, right? So what we're dealing with here with the Saturn square the nodes and it being in Virgo Pisces and Saturn being in Sag is literally just on a very deep level. We're beginning to understand that emotions through intuition is the new way that we are as human beings going to experience ourselves. up until this point, we have developed an awareness of our emotions, but yet created boundaries around us to protect ourselves because we haven't understood the nature of our emotions as intimately as we're going to within the next couple of sort of years that we're going to be evolving through. When I say a couple of years, I mean decades, right? This is where we're going. So what I'm trying to bring up here is that the Saturn stuff in connection with Venus being in Scorpio and Neptune and Chiron and the South Node all being in Pisces is that we are beginning to recognize that it's not working for us if we are responding to our current environment with the old dynamics. It's not working for us if we are going to be integrating the change, and yet fundamentally the change that we are wanting to have is not in alignment with the frequency that is the change. Okay, so and that's difficult because each of us has actually got a lot of hard or difficult emotional work to begin consciously integrating as we move forward in every single moment, opening and expanding the heart in a world that is asking you to consistently close it down. You understand? So this process of us making progress through our own awakening experience is at a point where it's not only at a tipping point, but it's also going to get extremely loud for us to begin recognizing that if we don't operate in the way that is absolutely necessary for the higher frequency to be here, then what we will experience is the loss of meaning and the absence of anything that has purpose. Now think about that for a moment in terms of what that actually represents for us and what type of experiences we're going to have to go through until we actually have it click within ourselves and then begin to say, okay, this is how I need to actually, on a forceful level, be responding to the collective trauma, the unconsciousness that is present with us at the moment. So anybody that's watching this video at this point in time, I highly recommend taking like an hour out of your day and contemplating the nature of what it means to be of service, okay? And I don't mean it in the sense of, I want to be of service as a business. I mean, how can I be of service to not only myself, but to the collective awakening, if that is my agenda or motivation or desire? Each of us are going to have very, 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 very unique ways of applying the higher consciousness into this field. So it's not something that if you're not on that path of wanting to be of service and it's not working, means that you're not here to do that. It's just that there are uniquenesses within ourselves, and all you have to do is honor your own self to become aware of what that service is. But the contemplation is the realization of bringing your awareness back into the body, and then through the awareness coming back into the body, understanding what the calls of your intuition are bringing you, which is the direction that is necessary. In other words, listening to the spirit that is existing within you and then moving in alignment with that spirit so that the emotional reality that you experience is one of emotional integration of spirit consciousness, and that then being the way to awaken not only yourself, but to create the necessary awakening around you as well. So that's where we are. And that is going to consistently keep on becoming more and more and more and more and more and more until eventually it's right here in your face and it's like, we don't have a choice, right? So the next phase of what I'm sharing with you is that it's not even something that you have to try. And that's the paradox here again. It's not like, okay, now we have to go and do this in order for it to happen. It's going to happen. It's just a case of how you are integrating the process and responding to it. And so this video is much about integrating this full moon and preparing for the energy shift that is going to be about being within inside of yourself, awakening yourself, and then acting from that awakened state. And whatever that brings you to is the realization of your path. That is the experience of what it is that you've come here to share and engage within yourself. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, everyone. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I really love sharing this material with you today. Just a couple of announcements quickly before I go. I'd like to let everybody know that on my YouTube now, there will be a Lucifer video where it talks a little bit more about this stuff. and you can go check that out as well. I will be creating a workshop for everybody that is interested in understanding the asteroid Lucifer, and it will be more along the lines of you actually getting a video from me beforehand, and then you meeting me in a group session where we will explore your astrology charts together, and you already have the teaching of the Lucifer beforehand. So there's more time to actually integrate Lucifer into your astrology charts. It's a very powerful energy pattern, to be honest. So I'm excited about that. And I'm also really, really excited to be announcing that the website that has been plaguing me for God knows how long has been now fixed. And in fact, I've got a new address, which is called simonforster.com. The link is in the description below alongside the article. And that is being launched. So this is the new website. This is the new format. This is the new expression of the energy that I contain within myself. And I would like to say from the bottom of my heart, the most intense, deep appreciation for the soul that actually created and constructed the website for me. I am unbelievably lucky to have had an opportunity to have had somebody actually care enough to create a website in a way and make it so beautiful. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And by the way, I don't mean care that you guys don't care. I just mean in the sense that, hey, by the way, your work is valuable and I'd like to help you out in that sense. So to every single one of you that watches these videos, that supports me in this process and supports your own journey, you rock. And I hope to be able to interact with you guys more in terms of live streams going forward and just some random stuff that I'm excited to do. Okay. All right, guys, have a fantastic time. Bye.